The war between heaven and hell had raged for 3,000 years, a conflict so ancient that neither side could remember who had struck the first blow. Angels and demons clashed across the mortal realm, their battles tearing rifts in reality, their hatred burning hotter than any earthly flame. It was eternal, it was absolute. It was the way things had always been and always would be, until the day Azariel fell from the sky to save the demon who had once tried to kill him. It happened on a battlefield, in what humans called the Waste, a stretch of scorched earth, where nothing grew and nothing lived, where the veil between worlds was so thin that both celestial and infernal forces could manifest without restraint. The ground was littered with the remnants of countless battles, weapons forged in heaven's forges and hell's furnaces lying broken and forgotten. Azariel stood among his battalion, his white wings spread wide, his sword blazing with holy fire. He was a warrior angel, one of heaven's finest, with golden eyes that had witnessed centuries of conflict, and a face that still somehow retained a trace of the compassion that all angels were created with, though war had dimmed it considerably. Across the battlefield, the demons gathered, a seething mass of darkness and rage, and at their front stood Casimir. Even among demons, Casimir was feared. He was ancient, powerful, with wings like shattered obsidian and eyes that burned with red flame. His very presence seemed to drain light from the air, and his reputation was built on the bodies of angels he had slain. Azariel had faced him twice before. Both times they had fought to a standstill, both times walking away with new scars and renewed hatred. But there had been a third encounter, one that neither side knew about, one that haunted Azariel's dreams and, he suspected, tormented Casimir. As well, it had been 50 years ago, in a small village that had the misfortune of sitting on a convergence point between realms. Both angel and demon had arrived to claim it, to use its power for their respective sides. They had fought through the streets, their battle demolishing buildings, terrifying the humans who scrambled to flee, and then a child had run into the crossfire. Azariel still remembered the moment with perfect clarity. A little girl, no more, and then 5 years old, with dark hair and terrified eyes, frozen in the space between them as Azariel's holy fire and Casimir's dark energy converged. They would both hit her. She would die, an innocent casualty of a war she couldn't possibly understand. In Chantisha, that split second, Azariel had made a choice. He had redirected his attack, taking the full force of Casimir's power to his chest to shield the child. The blow had nearly killed him, sending him crashing through 3 buildings. By the time he recovered, the girl was gone, safe, and so was Casimir. The demon had not taken advantage of Azariel's vulnerability, had not finished him while he lay broken and bleeding, had simply left. They never spoke of it. When they met again on other battlefields, they fought with the same fury as before, but something had changed between them, an unspoken acknowledgement of a moment when the absolute rules of their war had bent just slightly in the face of something neither could quite name. Now, as the two armies faced each other across the waste, Azariel found his gaze drawn to Casimir. The demon was speaking with his lieutenants, gesturing toward the angel lines, no doubt planning strategy. Even from this distance, Azariel could feel the weight of his presence, the dark charisma that made other demons follow him willingly. "Azariel," his commander Michael said from beside him, "today we end this. Casimir has been a thorn in heaven's side for too long. I want you to engage him directly. Keep him occupied while we execute the binding." Azariel's attention snapped. Back to Michael. "The binding? That's forbidden magic. It tears at the fabric of reality itself." "Desperate times," Michael said coldly. "We will trap their entire force in a pocket dimension and collapse it. Every demon on this battlefield will be erased from existence. It is a sacrifice heaven is willing to make." "And what of the angels caught in the blast radius?" Azariel demanded. "What of the mortals in the surrounding areas? The binding doesn't discriminate acceptable losses," Michael replied, his golden eyes hard. "We are at war, Azariel. We do what we must to achieve victory. Now will you follow orders, or must I find someone else to occupy Casimir?" Azariel looked back at the demon lines, at Casimir's imposing figure. Something in his chest tightened, a warning, an instinct that screamed this was wrong. But he was a soldier. He had been a soldier for 3,000 years. He knew how to follow orders. "I will engage him," Azariel said quietly. The battle began with a roar that shook the earth. Angels descended from the sky like falling stars, their weapons blazing with holy light. Demons surged forward like a dark tide, their roars of fury mixing with the angels' battle cries. The two forces collided with devastating force, and the waste erupted into chaos. Azariel flew across the battlefield, his wings carrying him with incredible speed. He spotted Casimir immediately, the demon cutting through angel warriors with brutal efficiency. Their eyes met across the carnage, and understanding passed between them. This was their dance, their destiny, their eternal conflict. They came together, with a clash that sent shockwaves rippling outward, knocking lesser warriors from their feet. Azariel's holy blade met Casimir's claws, and the air between them crackled with opposing energies. "Angel," Casimir growled, his voice like grinding stone, "come to die today?" "I could ask you the same, demon," Azariel replied, pushing back and launching a flurry of strikes that Casimir deflected with contemptuous ease. They fought with the familiarity of old enemies, each knowing the other's patterns, each anticipating the other's moves. But Azariel's mind was elsewhere, tracking the progress of Michael's plan. He could feel the build-up of celestial energy at the center of the angel formation, could sense the reality-bending magic being woven. The binding was almost ready. "You, quite distracted," Casimir observed, his red eyes narrowing. "What is heaven planning?" "Nothing that concerns you," Azariel lied, pressing his attack harder, trying to keep Casimir's attention focused on their duel. But Casimir was ancient and cunning. He broke away from their exchange and turned toward the angel lines, his eyes widening as he sensed the magical build-up. "A binding," he breathed. "You madmen, you'll tear a hole in reality itself." "It will end this battle," Azariel said, though. Even to his own ears, the justification sounded hollow. "It will end you." Casimir spun back to face him, and for the first time in all their encounters, Azariel saw something other than rage in the demon's eyes. He saw fear, not for himself, but for something else. "My legion," Casimir said. "There are 300 demons on this battlefield, young ones, some fighting their first major engagement. You would erase them all?" "You speak as if demons are worth mourning," Azariel said, but his grip on his sword faltered slightly. "You who have killed thousands of angels." "In war," Casimir snarled, "in honest battle, not through reality-ending magic that breaks every rule of engagement. This is not war, Angel. This is genocide." The word hit Azariel like a physical blow. He looked toward the angel lines and saw it clearly now, the massive spell formation, the energy that pulsed with wrongness. Michael stood at its center, his hands raised, his face set in grim determination. And Azariel realized that Casimir was right. This wasn't war, this was slaughter. The binding would not just kill the demons on the battlefield. It would tear apart the fabric of space, would create a wound in reality that could take centuries to heal. The surrounding lands would become uninhabitable. Any mortals within 100 miles would be consumed, all for a tactical victory in a war that had no end. Azariel started, then stopped. What could he say? He was an angel. He followed heaven's will. He did not question. He did not doubt. Except he was doubting. had been doubting for 50 years since the day he had chosen to save a child instead of killing a demon. Casimir watched the conflict play across Azariel's face, and something shifted in his expression. "You disagree with this," he said, and it was not a question. "You know it is wrong." "It does not matter what I think," Azariel said, but his voice lacked conviction. "I am a soldier of heaven." "You are more than that," Casimir said quietly. "You proved it 50 years ago when you took my attack to save that human child. You chose mercy over victory, compassion over duty. That day, you were not just a soldier. You were something better. And you chose not to kill me when I was defenseless," Azariel countered. "What does that make you, demon?" Casimir's laugh was bitter, confused, conflicted, tired. He looked back at his legion, at the young demons fighting desperately against overwhelming numbers. "I have lived for 5,000 years, Angel. I have killed more of your kind than I can count. I have reveled in it, gloried in it, used it to prove my worth to Hell's princes. But standing here now, watching my warriors, knowing they are about to be erased from existence by magic that should never be used, I find myself wondering what it has all been for." The energy of the binding reached a crescendo. Azariel could feel it pulling at the edges of reality, could sense the spell nearing completion. In moments, it would activate. The pocket dimension would form. Everything within its radius would be consumed. "They will die for nothing," Casimir said, his voice rough with emotion Azariel had never heard from a demon before. "Not in glorious battle, not proving their strength. They will simply cease to exist. Unmade by magic, they cannot fight, cannot resist. Is this the righteousness heaven claims to represent?" Azariel looked at the demon before him. This ancient enemy who had tried to kill him countless times, who had every reason to hate him. And he saw not a monster, but a leader trying to protect those under his command. He saw desperation and fear and grief, all the things he had been taught demons could not feel, all the things he was feeling himself. "What would you have me do?" Azariel asked, his voice barely audible over the sounds of battle. "I cannot stop the binding alone. Michael commands it. The celestial chorus empowers it." "Then break the circle," Casimir said urgently. "The binding requires perfect geometric alignment. If even one point is disrupted, the spell will collapse." "That would mean attacking my own forces," Azariel said slowly. "That would mean betraying heaven. That would mean choosing right over." "Wrong," Casimir countered. "Choosing mercy over murder. I am asking you, Angel, to be what you were created to be. Not a weapon, not a soldier, but a being of compassion and light." Azariel's mind raced. Everything he had been taught, everything he had believed for 3,000 years, told him to ignore the demon's words, to let the binding complete, to accept that this was necessary, justified, righteous. But when he looked at Casimir's face, when he thought of 300 demons about to be erased from existence, when he imagined the mortals who would die as collateral damage, he could not make himself believe it. "If I do this," Azariel said quietly, "I will be cast down. I will fall. Heaven does not forgive betrayal." "I know," Casimir said, "and I cannot promise you anything in return. Hell will not welcome you. Earth will not understand you. You will be alone, rejected by both sides. I am asking you to sacrifice everything for beings who are your enemies, who would kill you without hesitation in any other circumstance." "Then why would I do it?" Azariel asked, though he already knew the answer. "Because it is right," Casimir said simply. "Because you know it is right, and because I believe that some part of you has been waiting for a reason to question, to break free, to be more than just another soldier in an endless war." The binding reached its final phase. Azariel felt the spell lock into place, felt reality begin to tear. In seconds, it would activate. He made his choice. Azariel's wings exploded with light as he launched himself not at Casimir, but toward the angel lines. He flew faster than he ever had, holy fire blazing around him, his sword raised. Angels in his path shouted in confusion, trying to understand why their warrior was charging at them instead of the enemy. Michael saw him coming. "Azariel, what are you doing? Stand down!" "Forgive me," Azariel whispered, and brought his sword down on the nearest node of the binding circle. Holy energy erupted outward as the carefully constructed spell shattered. The geometric alignment broke, and the pocket dimension that had been forming collapsed before it could fully manifest. The backlash was tremendous, a wave of force that sent every being on the battlefield, angel and demon alike, tumbling across the scorched earth. When the dust cleared, Azariel stood at the center of a crater, his sword buried in the ground, his wings singed and smoking. Around him, his fellow angels were picking themselves up, staring at him with expressions ranging from shock to fury. Michael approached, his face twisted with rage. "What have you done? You have sabotaged heaven's victory. You have betrayed us." "Stopped a massacre," Azariel said quietly, pulling his sword from the ground. "The binding would have killed everyone on this battlefield and devastated the surrounding lands. That is not righteousness, that is genocide. You dare question heaven's judgment?" Michael demanded. "You, who are but a soldier, presume to know better than your commanders?" "I presume to know right from wrong," Azariel replied, his voice stronger. "Now, something I should have remembered long before today." Michael's eyes blazed with fury. "Then you are no longer one of us. By your own actions, you have cast yourself down. You are fallen, Azariel, no longer welcome in heaven, no longer protected by its grace." Azariel felt it then, the severing of his connection to the celestial realm. It was like having a limb torn off, a piece of his soul ripped away. The light that had always sustained him flickered and dimmed. His wings, once pure white, began to darken at the edges, the physical manifestation of his fall. He dropped to his knees, gasping from the pain of it. Around him, angels backed away, unwilling to be associated with his disgrace. The demons, still recovering from the binding's collapse, watched in stunned silence. "Leave this place," Michael commanded. "You are cast out. If you return to any realm under heaven's protection, you will be destroyed." The angel host began to withdraw, opening portals back to the celestial realm. Within moments, Azariel was alone on the battlefield with 300 confused demons and their leader. Casimir approached slowly, his red eyes unreadable. Azariel tensed, waiting for the killing blow. He was weakened, falling, defenseless. Any demon would take advantage of such an opportunity, but Casimir knelt beside him instead. "You fool," the demon said, but there was no malice in his voice. "You beautiful, idiotic fool. You actually did it. I could not let them die." Azariel said through gritted teeth, the pain of his fall still overwhelming. "Not like that. Not when I could prevent it." "You saved us," Casimir said quietly. "You, an angel, saved a demon legion. Do you have any idea how unprecedented this is?" "I am starting to understand," Azariel said with a weak laugh that turned into a cough. His wings were still darkening, the white fading to gray. "What happens now? Do you kill me? Take me as a prisoner? Display me as a trophy to hell's princes?" Casimir was quiet for a long moment, studying Azariel's face. Then, to Azariel's complete shock, the demon stood and extended his hand. "Now," Casimir said, "I repay my debt." Azariel stared at the offered hand. "What debt?" 50 years ago, you saved a child at great cost to yourself. Today, you saved my entire legion at the cost of everything you were. I would be a poor excuse for a warrior if I did not honor such sacrifice. "You owe me nothing," Azariel said, but he took the demon's hand anyway, letting Casimir pull him to his feet. "I did not do this to earn your gratitude." "I know, Casimir," said. "That is precisely why you deserve it." He turned to address his legion, his voice carrying across the battlefield. "This angel, at the cost of his own damnation, saved all of you from a fate worse than death. He sacrificed his place in heaven, his connection to all he has ever known, to give you a chance to continue existing. We will not repay such mercy with violence." Murmurs rippled through the demon ranks. Some nodded in agreement, others looked uncertain. A few looked downright hostile, their ingrained hatred of angels warring with their gratitude for being saved. One demon, a massive creature with horns like a bull, stepped forward. "He is an angel, our enemy. How can we trust him?" "He was an angel," Casimir corrected. "Look at his wings. He falls even as we speak. Heaven has cast him out. He has no home, no allegiance, no protection. He is alone in a world that will hate him for what he was and what he has become." The demon lieutenant frowned. "Then what do you propose?" Casimir looked at Azariel, and there was something in his eyes that Azariel could not quite identify. Respect, perhaps, or something deeper. "I propose we offer him sanctuary. He saved us. The least we can do is ensure he survives his fall." "Sanctuary," Azariel repeated. "Among demons. That is impossible?" Casimir finished with a slight smile. Much like an angel betraying heaven to save demons was impossible. "It seems we are living in impossible times." Before Azariel could respond, warning bells began to chime in his mind. His celestial senses, though dimmed, still functioned enough to detect the approach of powerful beings. He turned and saw them, a dozen angels descending from the sky, led by Michael. "They return," Azariel said quietly. "They mean to finish this, to destroy me and everyone here." Casimir's eyes narrowed. "Let them come. My legion is still strong. We will—" "No," Azariel interrupted. "You cannot win this fight, not against Michael and his personal guard. They are among heaven's elite. Please, take your warriors and flee. Do not waste the lives I just saved." "And leave you to face them alone," Casimir demanded. "In your weakened state, they will destroy you." "I know," Azariel said calmly. "But my death is acceptable if it means your legion survives. That was the entire point." "Unacceptable," Casimir growled. He turned to his lieutenant. "Theron, take the legion back to the Obsidian Citadel. Use the emergency portals. Go now." "But Commander," Theron protested. "That is an order," Casimir snapped, his voice brooking no argument. Demon portals began to open across the battlefield, swirling vortexes of dark energy. The legion looked between their leader and the approaching angels, clearly torn. "Go!" Casimir roared, and finally they obeyed, streaming through the portals, until only Casimir and Azariel remained. "You should go too," Azariel said quietly. "There is no reason for both of us to die here." "There is every reason," Casimir replied, settling into a battle stance. "You fell from the skies to save me and mine. The least I can do is stand beside you when heaven comes to exact its revenge." The angels landed in a circle around them, weapons drawn, faces cold with righteous fury. Michael stepped forward, his sword blazing with holy fire. "Azariel," he said, his voice devoid of any warmth, "you have compounded your betrayal by consorting with demons. Your fall is sealed. But we offer you one final chance at redemption. Step away from the demon. Help us destroy him and his taint on this world. Do this, and though you can never return to heaven, we will grant you a swift end rather than an eternity of torment." "He seeks only to manipulate you," Casimir said quietly. "Heaven offers no true mercy to the fallen." "I know," Azariel said. He looked at Michael, at the angel who had once been his commander, his mentor, his friend. I will not help you kill him. He has shown me more honor in the past hour than heaven has shown me in 3,000 years." Michael's expression hardened. "Then you will die together, a fitting end for a traitor and the demon he died to save." The angels attacked as one, a coordinated assault designed to overwhelm through sheer force. Azariel raised his sword, knowing it was hopeless, knowing he was too weak from his fall to fight effectively. Beside him, Casimir roared a challenge, dark energy crackling around his claws. They fought brilliantly. Despite his weakened state, Azariel's skill was undeniable, and Casimir fought with the fury of a demon, protecting something precious. But they were outnumbered, outmatched, and growing more exhausted with every exchange. An angel's blade slipped past Azariel's guard, cutting deep across his ribs. He gasped, stumbling, and Casimir immediately moved to cover him, taking a blow, meant for Azariel across his back. Dark blood spattered the scorched earth. "We cannot win this," Azariel panted, pressing a hand to his bleeding side. "Then we die well," Casimir replied, his voice strained but defiant. Michael raised his sword for what would clearly be a killing blow, holy fire gathering along its edge. "Goodbye, Azariel. I am sorry it came to this." But before he could strike, the air shimmered with power. A massive portal ripped open between Michael and his targets, and from it poured Casimir's legion, 300 demons, led by Theron, who looked at his commander with determination. "With respect, sir," Theron said, "we do not abandon our leader, especially not when he stands with the one who saved us all." "You should have left," Casimir said, but there was pride in his voice. "And missed the chance to repay our debt to the fallen angel?" Theron grinned, showing far too many teeth. "Never!" The key battle that followed was brief but brutal. The angels were powerful, but they were outnumbered more than 20 to 1. Michael's guard fought valiantly, but even they could not withstand such numbers. Within minutes, the angels were forced to retreat, opening portals back to heaven and withdrawing, but not before Michael fixed Azariel with a final cold stare. "This is not over," he promised. "Heaven's memory is long. We will find you again." Then they were gone, and silence fell over the battlefield. Azariel collapsed, his strength finally giving out. Casimir caught him before he hit the ground, lowering him carefully to sit on a broken boulder. "Your wings," Casimir said softly, and Azariel didn't need to look to know what he would see. His wings, once his pride, were now completely grey, the final sign of his fall. He was no longer even a falling angel. He was fallen, complete, irrevocable. "I suppose there is no going back now," Azariel said with a weak laugh. "No," Casimir agreed, "but perhaps going back is not what you need. Perhaps you need to move forward." Instead, he stood and addressed his legion. "This angel has lost everything to save us. He has sacrificed his home, his power, his very nature to give us life. I say we honor that sacrifice by offering him what heaven denied him, a place to belong, brothers and sisters in arms, a home." The demons looked at each other uncertainly. Finally, Theron spoke up. "He is an angel. How can we trust—" "He was an angel," Casimir corrected again, more firmly this time. "Now he is simply a warrior who chose mercy over murder, compassion over duty. Those are qualities worth respecting, regardless of where they come from. I will not order you to accept him, but I ask you, as your leader and your friend, to give him a chance." One by one, the demons nodded. Some grudgingly, some with genuine respect, but all agreeing. Theron approached Azariel and offered his hand. "If our commander trusts you, then so do we. Welcome to the Obsidian Legion, Fallen One." Azariel took the hand, too overwhelmed to speak. He had expected death or endless wandering. He had not expected acceptance, had not expected mercy from the very beings he had been taught to hate. "Come," Casimir said, helping Azariel to his feet. "You need healing and rest. The Obsidian Citadel is well defended. Heaven will not reach you there." They stepped through the portal, and Azariel found himself in a vast fortress carved from black volcanic glass. It was dark, certainly, with flames burning in sconces along the walls, but it was not the hellscape he had been taught to expect. There was order here, purpose, even a certain stark beauty in the architecture. Casimir led him to a chamber and helped him onto a bed, then summoned healers. As demon physicians began tending to his wounds with surprising gentleness, Casimir sat beside him. "Why?" Azariel asked quietly. "Why save me? Why offer me sanctuary? I am your enemy. I have killed demons, many demons. And I have killed angels." Casimir replied, "Many angels. We were soldiers on opposite sides of a war neither of us chose. But you chose something different today. You chose to see us as beings worth saving rather than targets to destroy. That choice cost you everything. How could I not honor it?" "Heaven will come for both of us now," Azariel warned. "I have become a liability. Being near me puts your entire legion at risk." "Let them come," Casimir said with a slight smile. "We have faced heaven before. We will face them again, but this time we will do so knowing that at least one angel saw us as more than monsters. That is worth fighting for." The healers finished their work and withdrew, leaving Azariel and Casimir alone. The fallen angel looked down at his grey wings, at the physical proof of everything he had lost. "I do not regret it," he said softly. "Saving you all, stopping the binding, even knowing the cost, I would make the same choice." "That," Casimir said, reaching out to gently touch one of Azariel's wings, "is why you deserved better than heaven gave you. True righteousness is not blind obedience. It is choosing compassion even when it costs you everything." Their eyes met, and something passed between them, understanding, respect, and perhaps buried beneath 3,000 years of enmity, the beginnings of something that neither could quite name, but both recognized. "Rest now," Casimir said, standing. "When you wake, we will figure out what comes next, together." As he turned to leave, Azariel's voice stopped him. "Casimir, thank you for standing with me, for not taking advantage when I was vulnerable, for seeing me as more than just a fallen enemy." Casimir looked back, and there was warmth in his red eyes that Azariel had never seen before. "Thank you for falling from the skies to save a demon who once tried to kill you. It seems we are both capable of surprising ourselves." In the days that followed, Azariel began to adjust to his new reality. The demons of the Obsidian Legion were wary at first, but as they saw him train with them, eat with them, defend the citadel alongside them when minor threats arose, they gradually accepted him. He was different, certainly. His techniques were celestial, his instincts shaped by millennia of angelic warfare. But he adapted, learned, grew, and through it all Casimir was there, teaching him about demon culture, training with him to help him adjust to his diminished but still formidable abilities, sitting with him on long nights when the pain of his fall became too much to bear alone. They talked during those nights about the war, about the choices that had led them to this point, about the child Azariel had saved 50 years ago, and how that single act of mercy had planted a seed that had finally bloomed on the battlefield. "I have thought about that day," Casimir admitted one night as they sat on the citadel's walls, watching stars that looked the same, whether viewed by angel or demon. "About why I did not kill you when you were defenseless. I told myself it was because the human child was watching, because even demons have some standards. But that was a lie." "Then why?" Azariel asked. "Because in that moment, when you chose to shield her at the cost of your own safety, you reminded me of something I had forgotten," Casimir said quietly, "that we are not just weapons, not just soldiers. We are beings capable of choice, of growth, of being more than what we were created to be. You chose mercy, and in that choice you showed me that change was possible." "Change," Azariel repeated, looking down at his grey wings. I have certainly changed. We both have, Casimir said. I am not the same demon who tried to kill you in that village, and you are not the same angel who fought me to a standstill. We have both been shaped by that moment and all the moments since. Is this what you imagined? Azariel asked with a slight smile. When you first suggested I take sanctuary here, that we would become whatever this is. Casimir turned to look at him fully, and Azariel saw emotions in his face that demons were not supposed to be capable of. Fondness, protectiveness, something deeper that made Azariel's breath catch. I imagined offering you safety, Casimir said, softly, a chance to survive your fall. What I did not imagine was how much I would come to value your presence, how much brighter this citadel would feel with you in it, how complete I would feel when you are near. Casimir. Azariel breathed, his heart pounding. I know it is complicated, Casimir continued. We were enemies, are still enemies in the eyes of our respective realms. Heaven would see our friendship as further proof of your corruption. Hell would see it as weakness on my part. But I find that I no longer care what they think. He reached out and took Azariel's hand, his touch warm. Despite the demonic fire that coursed through his veins, you fell from the skies to save me. The least I can do is be honest about what you have come to mean to me. Azariel looked at their joined hands, at the impossible sight of angel and demon touching not in violence, but in tenderness. Everything he'd been taught said this was wrong, unnatural, a perversion of the cosmic order, but his heart, freed from heaven's rigid doctrine, told him something different. I value you too, Azariel said quietly, more than I thought possible. When I decided to break the binding, it was not just about saving your legion. It was about saving you, the demon who showed me mercy, who challenged me to be better, who made me question everything I thought I knew about right and wrong. Casimir's eyes blazed brighter, and he moved closer, his free hand coming up to cup Azariel's face. The realms will condemn us for this. Both heaven and hell will see us as traitors to everything they stand for. Let them, Azariel said, leaning into the touch. I have already fallen. I have already been cast out. If I am to be damned either way, I would rather be damned for choosing connection over hatred, for choosing you. Their kiss was gentle at first, tentative, both of them aware of how impossible this was, how it broke every rule that had governed their existence. But as they deepened the kiss, as celestial and infernal energies mingled without destroying each other, they both felt it. The rightness of it, the completion. When they finally pulled apart, both were glowing softly. Azariel's grey wings had taken on an opalescent sheen, as if the darkness was shot through with subtle light, and Casimir's red eyes held flecks of gold that had never been there before. What is happening to us? Azariel asked, looking down at his changed wings in wonder. I do not know, Casimir admitted, but I do not think it is corruption. It feels like transformation, like we are becoming something new. In the months that followed, their relationship became known throughout the Obsidian Legion. There were those who disapproved, who saw Azariel as a contaminating influence on their commander. But there were more who saw how Casimir had changed, how he led with more wisdom and less brutality, how he considered consequences beyond immediate victory, and they saw how Azariel had changed too. How his rigid certainty had given way to flexibility, how his judgmental nature had softened into understanding, how he fought not with the cold precision of an angel, but with the passion of someone defending a home and people he had chosen. Heaven did come for them, as Michael had promised. 3 separate attacks in as many months, each trying to either recapture or destroy the fallen angel who had betrayed them. But each time, the Obsidian Legion stood firm, and Azariel and Casimir fought, side by side with a synchronicity That seemed impossible for former enemies. On the third attack, something extraordinary happened. As Azariel and Casimir fought back to back against a squad of Heaven's elite warriors, their energies began to merge. Holy light and infernal darkness spiraled around them, not fighting each other but complementing, creating something entirely new, a silver-gold flame that was neither holy, celestial, nor demonic, but both and neither at once. The attacking angels fell back in shock, and their leader, a seraphim named Raphael, stared at the phenomenon with wide eyes. "What sorcery is this?" he demanded. "No sorcery," Azariel said, his voice resonant with new power. "Simply what happens when beings choose unity over division, when they reject the false binary of your eternal war. You have become an abomination." Raphael spat. "Neither angel nor demon, but some twisted hybrid that offends the natural order." "The natural order," Casimir said, his voice equally transformed, "is what we make of it. Your war is not natural. It is a choice we reject." The silver-gold flame expanded, filling the courtyard with light that was warm but not burning, powerful but not destructive. The attacking angels found themselves unable to maintain their assault, their weapons becoming too heavy, their wings too tired, not through pain or injury, but through a profound sense of peace that undermined their will to fight. "Go back to heaven," Azariel said gently. "Tell Michael that I will not be his enemy unless he makes me one. I seek no revenge, no conquest. I simply wish to live in peace with those who have accepted me." Raphael looked between the two of them, at the impossible energy that bound them, at the demon legion that stood ready to defend their commander and his fallen angel. Finally, he signaled for retreat. "This is not over," he warned, "but today we withdraw. Heaven will decide how to respond to whatever you have become." The angels departed, and as the silver-gold flame faded, Azariel and Casimir stood looking at each other in wonder. Around them, the legion erupted in cheers, celebrating not just the victory, but the miracle they had witnessed. "Did you feel that?" Azariel asked breathlessly. "When our powers merged?" "Like nothing I have ever experienced," Casimir replied. "It was as if we were one being, one consciousness, one purpose." Is this what they feared? Is this why the war has continued for so long? Because if angels and demons could truly unite, could create something new together, it would render the entire conflict meaningless. Perhaps, Azariel said thoughtfully. Or perhaps we are simply the first to try. The first to choose love over hatred strongly enough to break through millennia of conditioning. Theron approached, his expression awed. "Commander, the fallen one, what you just did, that power, we have never seen its like. What does it mean?" "It means," Casimir said, taking Azariel's hand openly before his entire legion, "that change is possible, that the old divisions need not define us, that we can become more than what we were created to be." He turned to address the assembled demons. "I know many of you still harbor doubts about Azariel's presence here. I know you wonder if my judgment has been compromised, if I have gone soft, if we are betraying our nature by offering sanctuary to a former angel. But look at what we just accomplished. Together, Azariel and I manifested a power that could end conflicts without bloodshed, that could defend without destroying. Imagine what we could achieve if we embraced this change rather than feared it." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Some looked convinced. Others remained skeptical. But all of them had witnessed the silver-gold flame, had felt its power, and could not deny that something significant had occurred. An older demon, one of the Legion's founding members, stepped forward. "Commander Casimir, I have served under you for 2,000 years. I have never questioned your leadership, but I must ask, where does this path lead? If we abandon the war, if we embrace this unity with the celestial realm, what becomes of us? We are demons. War is our purpose." "Is it?" Azariel asked. The name came naturally, a blending of their names that felt right on his tongue. No, wait, that had been Azariel speaking, but somehow it had sounded like both of them. He shook his head, clearing the strange moment of dual consciousness. Casimir continued the thought as if he had heard it too. We have defined ourselves by conflict for so long that we have forgotten we could be anything else, but today proved we can be more. Defenders, creators, bridge builders between realms that have been divided since the dawn of creation. The four. Other demon lords will not accept this, the older demon warned. They will see it as weakness. They may even move against us. Then we will face that when it comes, Casimir said firmly. But I will not reject this gift, this possibility, out of fear. Azariel fell from the skies to save us. He lost everything to give us a chance at life. The least we can do is have the courage to explore what that choice could mean for our future. Over. The following weeks, the changes continued. Azariel found that his abilities, while no longer purely celestial, had not diminished, but transformed. He could still heal, but now his healing light carried warmth that felt more vital, more alive than the cold perfection of angelic healing. He could still fight, but his techniques had evolved, incorporating the fluidity and passion of demonic combat styles. And when he and Casimir were together, when they trained or fought or simply existed in each other's presence, the silver gold flame would manifest, a visible representation of their bond. It became known throughout the supernatural world, this impossible union, and reactions varied wildly. Some demons from other legions came seeking to join them, drawn by the promise of something beyond endless war. Some angels, disillusioned with heaven's increasingly brutal tactics, defected and sought sanctuary in the Obsidian Citadel. Slowly, carefully, a new community began to form. Not demon, not angel, something else entirely. They called themselves the Twilight Court, beings who existed in the space between darkness and light, who had chosen unity over division. Azariel and Casimir led them together, their bond growing stronger with each passing day, but not everyone was pleased with this development. Hell's princes saw the Twilight Court as a threat to their power, a crack in the absolute loyalty they demanded from all demons. And Heaven's High Council viewed them as a corruption that needed to be purged, proof that fallen angels were irredeemable. 6 months after Azariel's fall, both realms moved simultaneously. A combined force of angels and demons, ancient enemies, working together for the first time in recorded history, marched on the Obsidian Citadel with a single goal: destroy the Twilight Court and everyone in it. It is ironic, Azariel observed as he and Casimir stood on the Citadel walls, watching the approaching army. We advocated for unity, and they have finally achieved it, but only to destroy us. Fear makes strange allies, Casimir replied. We represent change, and change terrifies those who benefit from the current order. Both heaven and hell gain from the eternal war. It justifies their power, their hierarchies, their control over their subjects. We threaten all of that simply by existing. Then we fight, Azariel said, though there was sadness in his voice. I had hoped to avoid more bloodshed. As did I, Casimir agreed, but sometimes peace must be defended with strength. Are you ready, my heart? The endearment still made Azariel's breath catch, even after months of hearing it. With you beside me, always. The battle that followed would be remembered in supernatural chronicles for millennia. The Twilight Court, numbering barely 400, faced an army 10 times their size. By all logic, they should have been overwhelmed in minutes. But Azariel and Casimir had spent months developing their merged abilities, teaching others in the Twilight Court how to access similar powers. Former angels and former demons learned to fight together, their energies complementing rather than conflicting, creating combinations that neither pure celestial nor pure infernal forces could match. and at the center of it all, Azariel and Casimir fought as one. Their minds linked through their bond. They moved with perfect synchronization, each anticipating the other's actions, covering weaknesses, amplifying strengths. The silver-gold flame burned around them like a star, and those who came too close found their weapons melting, their armor dissolving, not through destruction but through transformation. Swords became plowshares, spears became staffs, armor became robes. "What are you doing?" Michael shouted, leading the angelic contingent. "What is this sorcery?" "No sorcery," Azariel called back, his voice harmonizing with Casimir's in an eerie, dual tone. "Simply the truth that heaven and hell both fear, that war is a choice, that weapons are tools we create, that any tool of violence can be remade into something peaceful if we have the courage to try." A demon prince, massive and terrible, pushed through the ranks. "You speak of peace while defending yourselves through combat. You are hypocrites." "We speak of peace while defending the right to choose something other than war," Casimir corrected. "We will not attack you. We will not invade your realms. But neither will we allow you to destroy us for daring to imagine something better." The battle raged for hours, but gradually a strange thing happened. The attacking forces began to slow, to question. They saw former comrades fighting side by side, saw angels and demons who had chosen unity over hatred. They saw the silver gold flame that transformed weapons into tools of peace. And some of them began to wonder, what if the Twilight Court was right? What if the eternal war was not inevitable, but a choice they could reject? The first to lay down arms was an angel named Sariel, one of Michael's own guard. She simply stopped fighting, let her sword fall to the ground, and walked toward the Twilight Court's lines with her hands raised. "I am tired," she said simply. "Tired of killing, tired of hatred, tired of a war that has no purpose beyond its own perpetuation. If you will have me, I choose this. I choose peace." Michael moved to stop her, but 3 more angels joined her, then 2 demons from the attacking force, then more, not all, not even most, but enough to create visible gaps in the army's ranks. "Stand." "Down," Michael commanded. "That is an order." "From what authority?" Sariel called back. "Heaven says we fight because we are angels and they are demons, but these beings have shown us that we are more than our origins. We are individuals with the power to choose, and I choose to stop." The defections continued. Within an hour, nearly a quarter of the attacking force had laid down their weapons and joined the Twilight Court. The rest, seeing their ranks depleted, and facing an enemy that refused to kill them, began to withdraw. Michael and the demon prince met at a distance from their retreating troops. Their expressions were grim. "This is not over," Michael said, but there was less certainty in his voice than before. "No," the demon prince agreed, "but it is not going as we planned either. They are winning not through superior force, but through an idea. And ideas are much harder to kill than bodies." They departed, and the Twilight Court stood victorious. Though they had killed no one, wounded, yes, defended against, certainly, but killed, not a single life taken. It was unprecedented. As the last enemies disappeared through portals back to their respective realms, Azariel collapsed. The strain of maintaining the silver-gold flame for so long, of channeling power that his transformed body was still learning to handle, had taken its toll. Casimir caught him, cradling him gently. "Rest now," Casimir murmured. "You have done more than enough." "We did it together," Azariel corrected weakly. "Always together." "Always," Casimir agreed, carrying him back into the citadel. The crowd parted before them, former angels and former demons alike bowing their heads in respect for the 2 who had shown them a different path. In the days of recovery that followed, more beings came to the Twilight Court. Some from heaven, some from hell, some from the mortal realm who had been caught between the 2 and sought a third option. The court grew, and with it a new philosophy spread. The war between heaven and hell continued, but it was no longer absolute. There were now beings who stood apart, who refused to participate, who offered a living example that peace was possible. The Twilight Court became a neutral ground where disputes could be resolved without violence, where refugees from both sides could find sanctuary, where the rigid divisions of the cosmic order began slowly to dissolve. And at the center of it, all were Azariel and Casimir, the angel who had fallen from the skies to save a demon, and the demon who had chosen to stand with him even when it cost everything. Their love became legend, proof that even the deepest divisions could be bridged, that even the oldest hatreds could be transformed into something beautiful. Years passed, decades. The Twilight Court flourished, and though both heaven and hell still viewed it with suspicion, they could no longer deny its existence or its influence. The eternal war continued, but it was no longer the only option. There was now a choice, a path between the extremes, a middle way pioneered by two souls who had dared to love across the greatest divide in creation. And every night, when the silver gold flame burned bright in the heart of the obsidian citadel, it served as a reminder that compassion is stronger than hatred, that unity is more powerful than division, that sometimes the most revolutionary act is simply choosing to love someone you were taught to destroy. Azariel and Casimir stood together on the citadel walls, looking out at a world that was slowly, painfully, learning the lesson they had taught. "Do you ever regret it?" Azariel asked. "The path we chose?" Casimir turned to him, and his eyes, now permanently marked with flecks of gold amidst the red, shone with absolute certainty. "Never. Not for a single moment. You fell from the skies to save me. I would fall 1,000 times over to stay beside you." "Then we are both fools," Azariel said with a smile. "The best kind," Casimir agreed, and kissed him as the silver gold flame blazed around them, a beacon of hope in a world that had known only darkness and light, never the beautiful twilight that existed between.